Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
Ravens-Bills, Lamar Jackson versus Josh Allen. It was a classic, but not for the reasons we expected. Also, maybe this was the best Lions team we've ever seen, but Jayden Daniels does not care. And Ryan Day built his championship contending team the right way for the current day.
I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
It started off rosy for Lamar Jackson, a touchdown on the opening drive, then an interception and a fumble, and it was, here we go again, playoff Lamar Jackson. Then on the final drive, down 8, Lamar and company march down the field, get the potential game-tying touchdown. Mark Andrews drops a wide open 2-point conversion that would have tied the game with a minute and a half to go in the fourth quarter. The Ravens fall 27-25. Kevin Ostreicher from Locked On Ravens joins me now. Kevin, did we just watch the Mark Andrews drop game?
I think you can call it that. You can call it the Lamar Jackson turnover game. You can call it the chilling, familiar Baltimore Ravens game, because this feels like the script every single January recently for this Ravens team. Is they have a great regular season. They have some weaknesses, but they're able to work through those throughout the year. And then you get to a January game in the playoffs, and all of a sudden, all the mistakes start to happen again. Backbreaking turnovers, bad everything, and the Ravens still had a shot to tie this game, but it feels unfortunately right that the season ended this way if it was going to end, because this thing all year long in Baltimore has been the Ravens are very good at beating themselves. The only team that beat the Ravens, or the team that's best at beating the Ravens, is the Baltimore Ravens. And look, credit to Buffalo. I thought they did a really good job in this game, but man, you can't look at this game without looking at all the mistakes the Ravens made throughout.
I asked you before the game, Kevin, Lamar Jackson and the Ravens lose this one, and you have to do a segment about Lamar Jackson. What is the segment going to look like? What at this point can you say about another one of these, even though it goes down this way? Because that was what you said. You said it depends how it happens. Yep. So let's hear it.
It does, and you're catching me right before I record the post Locked On Ravens Live reaction, and we're going to have to talk about how Lamar has not shown up in these moments. And I think that this is one of those games where his mistakes are super loud, like the fumble that Von Miller returns, the interception, obviously, as well on a miscommunication with Rashad Bateman. And it's another one of these games where, yes, Lamar is going to get criticized, and he, along with the rest of the team, does deserve that criticism. It wasn't all Lamar's fault. I do want to put that out there. Obviously, he made a throw to Andrews on the 2-point conversion. Lamar didn't fumble that ball that Andrews fumbled, but you can't sit here and say that Lamar was not a big part of why the Ravens lost on Sunday night. And I think that, it's an unfortunate conversation. Lamar's a heck of a player and a heck of a quarterback, and will go down as one of the greats, in my opinion. But Peter, we know in today's NFL, you are judged based off of your Super Bowls when it comes to your status on the greatness ladder. And right now, Lamar Jackson has only been to one AFC championship game, and there are many different factors you can place into why that is the case, but we're not going to sit here and excuse Lamar's poor play either.
I think if you're going to deflect some of the criticism, or maybe just because Lamar is going to take an outsized share of the blame, there has to be a conversation at some point about John Harbaugh, who is now 12-10, I believe, in the postseason, including this one. And they've done essentially nothing in the postseason of note since they won the Super Bowl over a decade ago. I mean, this is one of the, everyone agrees, one of the best franchises in the league, top to bottom. And yet he is the coach as they continue to come up small after great regular seasons.
And it is a realistic conversation. Now, I don't think that I'm
not saying fire him, but
yes. And I don't think that will be the decision they make, right? I think that they will keep him. And I know that some portions of the Ravens fan base will be okay with that. Others will not. But the reality is you have a first-year defensive coordinator, a second-year offensive coordinator who might go on to get hired as a head coach. Who knows? Mm-hmm. So you might be looking again at a second-year defensive coordinator next year, another first-year offensive coordinator. John Harbaugh, if he were to move on at some point and the Ravens move on or whatever it may be, there'd be 25 teams lining up out the door for a John Harbaugh. But sometimes it's just time for a change. And I think that John Harbaugh will enter the season with a warm seat next year, assuming they do decide to keep him. And if there is another playoff failure, because here's the thing, Peter, it doesn't matter how good you are in the regular season. To me, my big thing is growth. And the Ravens took a step back, AFC Championship to divisional round game. We're not going to remember, at least I hope we don't remember Lamar Jackson as the quarterback that, couldn't get to the Super Bowl. And the Ravens make a mistake by just keeping it the status quo with John Harbaugh. And we have a lot of those coaches in the NFL, Peter. There's a huge conversation about Mike Tomlin, right? Regular season guy, but the team has not performed in the playoffs. Obviously, Pittsburgh to a lesser extent than the Ravens. But it is a real conversation. And as I said, I would expect John Harbaugh's seat to be warm heading into next year.
You can stay up to date all year on the Baltimore Ravens by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Ravens on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Your Locked On Sports Today. Coming up, Jayden Daniels is having one of the best rookie seasons we've ever seen from a quarterback. Before we get to that, you may think Saquon Barkley was the hero of the Eagles' win, but you'd be wrong. I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, or comedy. One of the most fun evenings this year was me and my wife getting a chance to go out. The excitement, the energy, it's unforgettable. It's unmistakable. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more near you. You can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. Saquon Barkley ran for over 200 yards and provided the home run carry for the Eagles' final touchdown, but it was his teammate on the defensive line that provided the heroics for Philly.
Missed opportunity after missed opportunity. Felt like it was about to end the Philadelphia Eagles season, but the hero of this game, Jalen Carter, said no. The Eagles have a home NFC Championship game next Sunday, and it was mainly because of number 98. I'm Louis DiBiase, host of the Locked On Eagles podcast. Trust me, we're going to talk about Saquon Barkley's historic generational performance. Nolan Smith in the pass rush took over this game. But when it felt like the Eagles just could not put the Rams away and continued to shoot themselves in the foot, Jalen Carter said, no, we are getting to the NFC title. I am a generational talent. Two huge plays by Carter made sure the Eagles won this game. It's 16-15. Jalen Hurts just took a big sack in the end zone for a safety. Jalen Carter punches the ball out right after that forced fumble. The drive of the game, down 6. The Rams have the ball on the 15 to win the game. Jalen Carter gets the sack on third down. That was a Hall of Fame worthy performance, and the Eagles won.
Death, taxes, and the Chiefs in the AFC title game. That's just how it goes with Patrick Mahomes.
And the Kansas City Chiefs move on to the AFC Championship game. They beat the Houston Texans 23-14. Was basically a 2-score game at the end. They took a safety. Smart play on their part to burn some clock and to give them a better kick position. Kansas City moves on. They will face either the Buffalo Bills or the Baltimore Ravens. We will find out tomorrow night. This was a game that the Chiefs basically ran from the start. It wasn't pretty on offense. It wasn't pretty. They weren't able to stop them defensively for the most part. They did get 8 sacks on the night. That was huge. That got them to the point where they held the Texans to only 12 points on offense and gave up 2 points on the safety. This is a game that is going to go down, gets Kansas City to their 7th straight AFC Championship game. A lot more coming here on Locked On Chiefs in just a few minutes.
On the hardwood, the Heat unveiled a big lineup change and cruised past Victor Wembanyama and the Spurs.
Well, Heat fans finally got what they've been wanting. Bam Adebayo and Kel'el Ware together in the front court for real minutes for the first time this season. I'm Wes Goldberg from Locked On Heat. The Heat beat the Spurs on Sunday afternoon, breaking a 3-game losing streak, but most importantly, finally unveiling the front court of maybe the future in Miami, probably post Jimmy Butler. Bam Adebayo, Kel'el Ware, we see it for the first time halfway through the second quarter. Heat down 5. Eric Spoelstra looks down the bench, brings Kel'el and Bam Adebayo in, and they go ahead and snap off a 14-2 run, take the lead, and then go up by as many as 27 points. They cruise to a win over the Spurs. Kel'el Ware, team high 25 points in this game. It freed up Bam Adebayo to not have to guard Victor Wembanyama. Kel'el Ware did an okay job at that. But more importantly, this was a sign of maybe things to come for the Miami Heat. Is this the front court of the future? We'll find out.
And the UConn women have been one of the most iconic teams in sports for a long time, but they may have their best player ever lacing it up this year. Paige Bueckers became the fastest UConn women's player to score 2,000 points. And I don't know, you may have heard of some other really good UConn players who like to score a lot of points. She had 18 in the Huskies' 60-point blowout win of Seton Hall on Sunday. Bueckers did it in her 102nd game, which is 6 games faster than Maya Moore, the previous record holder. She's also the 12th Huskies player ever to that mark, which is preposterous that they have that many players, and to think she did it faster than all of them. What may be even more impressive for this single game, though, is the fact that Bueckers scored or assisted on 36 of UConn's points in just 23 minutes. She finished with 7 dimes. It was the greatest season in Detroit Lions modern history. Emphasis on was, past tense, because it's now over thanks to Jayden Daniels and 45 points, a 28-point second quarter explosion. The Commanders go into Detroit, knock off the number 1 seed in the NFC, 45-31. David Harrison from Locked On Commanders joins me now. And David, what was the greatest season in Lions modern history is turning into the greatest season in Washington football modern history, certainly since the late 80s, early 90s here. And it seems like Jayden Daniels is having an all-time rookie season.
I mean, yeah, man, like you just said all of it. And I was talking to a couple of other reporters on our way down to the locker room after the win Saturday night. And I mean, we've all come to kind of the definitive conclusion. This is the best Washington team since 1991, which is the last time this franchise won a Super Bowl. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to go as far as to like say they're going to win a Super Bowl, but look, they're 2 games away. They're 2 wins away from being Super Bowl champions, 1 win away from going to the Super Bowl. And that is not something this franchise has been able to say or talk about in a long time. And it's not something that anybody expected this franchise to be talking about this season. Certainly not me. I mean, Peter, I had reservations and plans already to go to the Senior Bowl. Like I was expecting to not be working after next weekend, but now all of that's gone out the window because win or lose, I'm going to be busy while everybody else is in Mobile enjoying a little bit of college scouting. But, I'd much rather be covering a run like this than be at the Senior Bowl as much as I love it. And it's just enjoying the ride, man. But yeah, Jayden is not the only part of it, but I mean, he's certainly a big chunk of this thing. And it's been a blast to watch.
Yeah. Can't wait to see you in New Orleans. That's going to be a fun time for sure. I saw a stat that when blitzed on Saturday night, the Commanders did not have 1 negative play, one negative play. This is a rookie. The poise that he plays with is unbelievable. A 122.9 passer rating, a QBR a shade under 92. You've been with this team from the start, David. Mm-hmm. At what point did you watch Jayden Daniels and go, whoa, this is different?
So the point where I got to the point where I thought this was possible, I'll say that. So I thought Jayden was different. Honestly, this is going to sound really kind of delusional, honestly.
Let's hear it.
Rookie minicamp. As soon as we saw him at rookie minicamp, all of us were blown away. Look, I've been covering the Commanders. This is my 3rd season on ground. So the quarterbacks I've covered are the likes of Carson Wentz, Taylor Heineke. You know what I mean? Good dudes, not great quarterbacks. So for me to be blown away in person by a quarterback, not necessarily a high bar to cross if you're number 1, draft pick of a franchise, right? But still, Jayden came through, and what I'll say is where I do have an extensive history is leadership and Jayden's command on the practice field. Command of his teammates, command of himself, command of preparation was very evident from that very first practice, and it was incredibly impressive. Usually you go to rookie minicamp, these guys are kind of just waiting for the coaches to usher them. I don't want to like belittle anybody, but it's almost like a football minicamp. You know what I mean? Like they're not really taking charge. They're kind of being told what to do and going station to station. That wasn't the case. Like Jayden was in there and you would have thought he was running the practice. You know what I mean? And ever since then, it's really only gotten better. But where I really started to see Jayden kind of turn on the super special juice, or whatever you want to call it, would probably be the Philadelphia Eagles game, the second Philadelphia Eagles game. Obviously, we had flashes of it and runs of it.
But that Philadelphia Eagles game was really the first time you saw Jayden put on the cape, put the team on his shoulders, and say, I'm going to take control of the tempo of this game, and I'm going to make sure that we're in a position to win. And I think it was that week after that, honestly, that Dan Quinn, was the very first time Dan Quinn definitively said out loud, Jayden Daniels is a leader on this team. And we've only seen him grow that much more. And, Jayden, again, deserves all kinds of praise, but I do also want to take a moment to make sure that we also acknowledge the offensive line in front of him that was from that Lions blitz includes a rookie left tackle, Brandon Coleman, who's a third-round pick, and just got his butt whooped against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So for a rookie left tackle to have a playoff debut that was not good, and then be able to come into a worse environment, a harder environment, and have be part of a great performance in that aspect. Certainly play calling had a part to do with it, and obviously Jayden, but I think it just kind of shows you how this team operates where, kind of a never too low, never too high type of mentality. And you look at Jayden Daniels, like that is literally the best way to describe his whole personality.
You can stay up to date all year on the Washington Commanders by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Ravens on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Coming up, based on today's rules, Ryan Day built Ohio State the right way. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first one. That's $300 to keep the action going. The FanDuel app is easy to navigate, and the variety of bets keep coming every game to make them all exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around for your winnings. Whether you're betting on your favorite team or just looking to add a little extra excitement to the end of the playoffs, FanDuel has you covered. The NFC Championship battle, going to be a good one. Two NFC East teams that have already played each other. They've split the series. FanDuel has the Eagles 4.5-point favorites at home in this one. Decidedly smaller spread than what the Commanders face with the Lions. So just keep that in mind. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Some folks don't like the fact that the Buckeyes made the national championship game. Looking at you, Paul Feinbaum. But Locked On Big Ten host Craig Sheeman doesn't care.
Those of us that follow the Big Ten, look, we know the Buckeyes story all too well. Ryan Day, under immense pressure to win everything after falling short in 2023, went all in revamping how they do things in Columbus. He doubled down on the nil collectives at Ohio State. He put together a $20 million all-star roster. Nothing wrong with that. That's how things are done in this day and age in college football. So Day even went a step further. He took himself away from the offensive game planning and the offensive play calling, gave away to Bill O'Brien briefly before he then left, and then they brought in Chip Kelly to guide the offense. It was all part of the Ryan Day master plan. This would give Day some more flexibility, more freedom to keep the feet to the fire for everybody else on the big picture at Ohio State. And while there were huge bumps in the road this year with losses to Oregon and Michigan and a failure to play in the Big Ten championship game, which is one of their major goals every year, here they are. Here they are, 60 minutes away from a national championship. Look, it was not a perfect path, all right? But they made it to the final game here Monday night. They're going to face Notre Dame. Ohio State's going to be heavy favorites in this one for the national championship.
This is the reality of college football now. And there's no going back. There's no putting the genie back in the bottle. The toothpaste is all the way out of the tube. Name, image, and likeness, the head coach as fundraiser, as general manager. Now you have to hire general managers at these schools. You got to figure out the money. You got to raise the money, and it's not going away. Maybe they find restrictions and some more guidelines in here, but this is what this looks like. Don't be surprised if we see more college head coaches acting more like CEOs, and you hire a Chip Kelly to run your offense because you don't have time to game plan every week and be on the phone to donors, be on the phone to kids, be negotiating name, image, and likeness deals. There's so much now that goes into this that the coaching part is not that it's secondary, but it's the same as it ever was in terms of if you get the most talent, that's going to give you the best chance to win. Nick Saban, all-time great coach. Maybe the best in college football history, modern history, if you want to do it that way. It's not like what he was doing was revolutionizing college football from an offensive or defensive standpoint, though a lot of people took a lot of things, especially from his defense, right? He got the best kids. He got the best kids consistently. Now, it does require more than that. Ask Mark Richt at Georgia, because he got awesome recruiting classes and they could not win jack diddly. And then Kirby Smart goes and now they win the national title seemingly every year. So the coaching part matters, but I actually think it's going to kind of start mattering a little less because so much of the other parts are going to be required. And maybe the smartest organizations are going to offload that on their staff, their people, their GMs, the way NFL teams do, because the coach and the GM, those are separate jobs. And finally, over the weekend, we remembered one of the greatest broadcasters and one of the best people in baseball, really ever. For Brewers fans, Wisconsin sports fans, Bob Uecker was the soundtrack to your summer every year. You remember the iconic calls, but you remember a joke he told during a broadcast when it's 7-0. And for much of my childhood, it was 7-0 the other team because the Brewers weren't very good. But you listened anyway. You listened for Bob because he'd give you that once a half inning anecdote that made it worth it every time to suffer a lot of times through 3 hours of some bad baseball at times. That's why it was so gratifying at the end of his life to have these iconic Brewers teams, at least for Brewers fan standards, that he got to call big playoff moments, big regular season moments that led to big playoff moments. He is a unique figure in popular culture, in media, in sports, because he is one of the greatest broadcasters ever. He also has some of the most iconic dialogue in movies. And he was a late night guest. He was on Johnny Carson and would bring the house down. There has never been anyone like Bob Uecker. And there probably never will be. And he would probably be embarrassed for me to be talking about him like this, because no one wanted the praise less than him. Rest easy, Bob. If you're catching this episode after hearing your favorite Locked On show, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're a new subscriber to Locked On Sports Today, we're here for you with the biggest stories in sports every day. Coming up on the next Locked On Sports Today, who will hoist the national championship trophy? So at least until tomorrow, stay locked on sports today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
Go to our video on demand. Click on sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.